Welcome back. It's Jay Green with GW Private Capital, repair to sell and real estate rehab investments located here in Whittier. I want to share with you, whether you're a flipper, an experienced flipper, or a new flipper, or a realtor, or you're interested in writing an offer on a property that's a flip, I want to help you increase the odds of you getting your offer accepted and teach you what documentation to include, what language to put in there, and also give you a couple ideas on how to negotiate from a position of strength that's going to help you get the property at the price you're looking for. Because when you're buying a flip, the most important factor in the flip is the purchase price. You can project what the property is going to sell for after you've repaired it. You're looking at comps, active, pending, under contract. But the most important factor in the flip process is what you're paying for the property. So let's talk about how to increase your odds of finding a flip and getting your offer accepted. I'm going to start with some things that might seem obvious, but let's start with those things and get them out of the way. So we're out here in California, Southern California, and we're looking for that flip property. So the first thing that I try to look for is off-market properties. What is an off-market property? An off-market property is a property that is not put on the multiple listing service and put out to the general population of realtors and buyers that have immediate access to it. It can also be putting it out to the marketplace in masses that's not on the MLS, and that can also be marketing the property. So you're looking for off-market properties. Your chances of getting your offer accepted are going to be much better if you're dealing directly with the seller or you're dealing directly with a realtor that's dealing with the seller. There are a lot of sellers out there that don't want a bunch of people going through their property, and whoever offers them the price they're looking for, it's not always the highest price, but whoever can satisfy their wants and needs. Give me an offer, and if they believe that's the highest price they want, that's for the seller, the beholder, the seller to make that determination. So if you can get directly to a seller, go knock on their door, call them on the phone, send them a postcard, send them a letter. Whatever that takes to get in front of a seller and you're dealing directly with the seller, you're increasing your chances of getting a flip. Now, the next best thing would be to go through a realtor that's working with a seller that has the same kind of criteria, that they just want the best offer that they perceive is what's best for them. I bought plenty of properties from homeowners and I made them an offer and they were happy with it. That fulfilled what they were looking for. They were happy, I was happy, and it worked out well. So if you can get to these property owners through knocking on doors, making calls, sending them a postcard, sending them a letter, starting with properties that are maybe rental properties that are not occupied by the owners, sending to trust properties, going to houses in a particular area that look like they need work. Right now we have a lot of people that are retiring, baby boomers, seniors, people that are recently passing away, and their heirs want to sell these properties. There's a big market for that right now. So think about those ways of getting to that audience. Trust properties, people that have owned a property 30, 40, 50 years. Those are going to increase your chances of finding that flip. So if you can't get directly to the seller, the next best thing would be through realtors. Realtors help me find my properties, a lot of them. And again, it's not always about the highest price. It's about you being able to be dependable, present yourself as a cash buyer or an experienced person that could actually close on this transaction. So if you're not going to be knocking on doors or calling people or sending out mailers, the next best thing is to be marketing to realtors. And I don't mean just a few realtors, I mean hundreds, if not thousands of realtors. Jay, how do I get in front of hundreds or thousands of realtors? Well, the Department of Real Estate provides lists of all licensees in the state of California, and they're not expensive lists to obtain. So you want to build relationships with realtors in areas that you want to buy your properties in. Let's take Whittier, for example. So you want to network with as many realtors in Whittier that know property owners in Whittier, or that they're, so if you are dealing with hundreds or thousands of realtors, and those realtors are dealing with hundreds or thousands of property owners, you increase your chances of finding a flip property. Right now, again, buying properties on the MLS is not really a great way to look at property. You might have a realtor, or you find one on the MLS and it looks like a great deal, it's priced really low. Well, you're not the only person looking at that. There's 30, 40, 50, 100 people looking at that same deal. You put your offer in, and then it comes down to whoever is willing to pay the highest price. You might get lucky once in a while, and if you catch it early, get your offer accepted, but that doesn't happen very often. So I really don't, in this market of 2021, I really don't even pursue anything on the MLS because I just feel like it's a waste of my time, the agent's time, because there's a lot of people out there we are competing with as flippers, people that don't really have a lot of experience and don't run their numbers. And there's also a lot of people with cash that are also, can work on really tight margins. Us, if we are using private money, we have to be buying that property even cheaper than a person you're competing with cash. If you have a bag of cash, a lot of money, your chances of finding a flip are going to be much higher than a person that needs to obtain financing, because the financing costs are going to eat into your profit when you're working on really tight profit margins of these flips in California with our market as hot as it is. So you want to try to focus in on off-market properties. Now, off-market properties can also be presented through wholesalers, and those can get shopped around and have almost the same exposure as properties on the MLS. So if you do see like an off-market property, you then need to dig in deeper, and you need to do your own homework too. I think a lot of realtors, wholesalers, people that present these opportunities, you need to do your own homework, because there are some great realtors, there's some great wholesalers, but I find that most people are just trying to sell me a deal and really they don't know what they're talking about. Oh, Jay, buy this property in Whittier, it's going to sell for $750,000, and the highest comps, the high sixes. And oh, Jay, it's going to take $30,000 in repairs, and it's really going to take me $50,000 or $60,000 in repairs. People just pull these numbers out of their back pocket, and so you need to do your own due diligence when you're going to buy these properties. So let's talk about, so you want to get in front of these opportunities. And again, if you can deal directly with property owners direct, that's amazing. I can tell you more about that. Call me about systems that I use to reach out to property owners, and then also dealing with realtors. So when a realtor brings you this opportunity, you want to be ready to make a move. And so you want to have some language that you will email to the realtor to tell them to put it into the purchase agreement. In the state of California, the majority of the time, we're going to be using, and the realtor, the residential purchase agreement, the CAR RPA, residential purchase agreement. And so you want to put certain language into the purchase agreement that protects you and the seller and the realtor, and gives you some time to dig in deeper to make sure that that deal is going to be a good deal and working out for you and the seller. The worst thing you can do is put the property in escrow and drag the transaction on for a long time, put your deposit at risk, lose faith with the realtor, make the seller unhappy. So when I go into escrow, I've already pretty much determined that I want that property at that price. So let's talk about what you're going to provide to the realtor to prove to them that you're a qualified and experienced flipper buyer. So you want to determine how you're going to take title. Are you going to buy it in your name as a sole and separate married or a married person? You're going to buy it as an individual or a married couple? Or are you going to go to the extent of setting up a corporation or an LLC? You can take down a property either way. I'd say in the beginning, maybe it doesn't matter so much. From a tax standpoint, you might have some more hurdles if you buy it in your own name or as a married couple or as another type of other than an LLC or corporation. Ideally, if you could set up an LLC or a corporation, it's going to be better from a tax standpoint and also from a liability standpoint. So it's not that expensive and difficult, but every year you do need to file a tax return for the entity, and you need to do the mandatory minimum state franchise tax, which is $850. So every year you have to pay that, whether you do a deal or not. And you also need to register your file on a statement of information with the Secretary of State. Not difficult. Setting up a corporation or an LLC doesn't cost very much. I mean, it can be as little as like $400 up to about $700, and you can expedite it if you need it done in days. Normally it just takes a couple weeks to get it done. Call me, and I know some attorneys and services that can do that. You can go through LegalZoom, but I do have an attorney that can set those up pretty easily. You can do it yourself by use a service, and it doesn't cost that much. Again, like between about $350 up to maybe $700-800, depending on whether you need it like expedited. And so if you have an entity, you're going to have with a corporation your articles of incorporation and your bylaws. If you have an LLC, then you're going to have your articles of organization. And so when you talk to the realtor, you're going to say, I'm going to buy it in I Flip Homes LLC or I Flip Homes Incorporated, and you're going to give them the name and who the signer is, if it's you or someone else, and you're going to give them your articles of incorporation or your articles of organization if it's an LLC, and then you're going to come up with a purchase price. And that's very important because you want to stand behind that price and hopefully not have to renegotiate. So you can make an offer and then go through a negotiation process with the seller and the realtor. So, and then you come up with a deposit. The deposit is an earnest money deposit, and that's the money that goes into escrow to show as good faith that you intend to purchase the property. And it's a consideration. So the seller is agreeing to certain terms, and then you are showing an act of good faith by putting up this deposit. And usually the deposit is about 1% of the purchase price. I usually just make it like $5,000 or $10,000. If it's a little higher price property, I might increase it. The realtor may ask you to increase it if it's like a $1 million property and you're only putting up a $5,000 deposit. They may ask for more, because if you're buying $1 million property, most likely you should have the capital to put up more money. So you want to be able to write in your earnest money deposit, purchase price. Now on the first page of the purchase agreement, there's a little area at the bottom under additional financing, and I would write in buyer may use cash or private money, period. No loan contingencies, period. So what that says is your offer is very similar. You may be using cash or you may be using private money. It gives you that flexibility. But there's no loan contingencies unless you want to have loan contingencies. But I think that in the market we're in, you're competing against cash buyers, you want to either have the cash to buy the property and use no financing, or you want to present yourself as a really solid investor that might use cash, you might use private money, but if you go either way, the seller and the realtor can depend on you, and you're going to close. So that language in there allows you the flexibility in escrow to decide whether you want to use cash or you want to use private money. Now there are boxes in the purchase agreement, so look at them closely. There's boxes on other pages that address whether there's an appraisal contingency. And some of the things that I pay very close attention to are the inspection periods. And normally they're going to be about 10 days for an inspection period for you to do your due diligence, for you to go to the city, for you to look at any disclosures, for you to go inside the property and bring your home inspectors and your contractors. And so in the state of California, we have to actively remove contingencies. So it's no longer done passively, meaning by just on the purchase agreement. And before, once you pass those timelines, it was passively removed. It was implied that you're relinquishing, you're signing off. Well, now the seller and the realtor need to send you a removal of contingencies, which is good because it's a reminder to you. And then if for whatever reasons you pass those timelines, you pass the 10 days, the 15 days, whatever that timeline is you've agreed on, and they, meaning the realtor or the seller, do not have you sign that off, legally you can cancel the transaction. So those are things to pay close attention to. So once you've made an offer and you sign the purchase agreement, you send it to the seller, and if he or she sends it back, either directly or through the realtor, you want to look at, are they countering any of those terms? Are they countering price, deposits, timelines? You want to pay close attention to the timelines. When's the close of escrow? Do you have to close in 2 weeks, 21 days, 30 days? Pay attention to when you have to close. Pay attention to when you have to remove contingencies, inspections. Look and see if there's a loan contingency in there, because that's another out for you if you decide you're going to change your mind. But you want to pay close attention to those timelines. So what makes you a solid buyer? What increases your chances of getting your offer accepted? Obviously, if you're a cash buyer, most sellers, most realtors are going to put cash buyers on the top of the list. Now, price does make a lot. That does matter. Not always, but that can be sometimes important to a seller, especially if you're competing with other people. So again, if you can present yourself as a cash buyer investor, even though you might want to use private money, you want to present yourself in such a way. So I have a proof of funds, which is an investment statement that has a balance in there that's greater than any property I'm going to buy. So if I'm buying a property at $500,000, my balance is higher than $500,000, and I send that to the realtor. And I usually say, hey, I'm going to buy it cash. But I write it into the purchase agreement that buyer may use cash, period, or buyer may use cash or private money, period. It gives me flexibility. And so I always typically say I'm going to buy it as cash, and sometimes I do. But a lot of times when I'm buying multiple properties, I will use private money, and I know I can perform. I'm a private money lender. I know what's required to close. And I'd be talking to the realtor or the property owner and let them know, hey, I'm going to use, or you can't get a proof of funds. You don't have a statement. You can go to a private money lender and have them write you a letter, like a pre-approval letter or a letter of commitment. And so have them write it out, and have the private money lender write it out, to whom it may concern. I have reviewed the borrower's credit package, and they are qualified up to $500,000, a loan amount of $500,000 toward the purchase of 123 Elm Street. Get a pre-approval or a letter from a private lender that shows you've been pre-qualified to buy that property. This is a little bit, it's still good, but That's the next best thing if you can't get a proof of funds or have an investment letter. If you have friends that have like significant balances, see if they'll give you a proof of funds, and see if you can ask them, if you can have an investment statement and say, hey, there's nothing to say you can't partner with that person or later decide you're not going to partner with that person, but you have a proof of funds, and if you can tie in the investment account or bank statement, and you want to cross off the account numbers, no one needs to see that, but they want to see the balance in there. So if you can correlate your name or the buyer with the name on the statement, so you could write an offer with you and your friend that's on the statement, and most likely when you're in escrow, you can usually make adjustments on that. Now, if you write your home buyer flipping Inc., if you put and/or assignee, you have the legal right to change it to another name, to change that name completely. When you're buying certain properties, like bank REOs, short sales, the banks or the sellers can be very, very particular about the vesting. So don't always assume you can change the titling or the buyer name. That can be tricky. So you want to give that a little bit of thought, because you can't always change it. Sometimes you can. Sometimes you have a flexible seller or a realtor that's helping you, but there are circumstances, REOs, short sales, trust sales, certain things, probate sales, where it's not so easy to change out the name of the buyer. So you want to give it a little bit of thought. If you can present yourself as a cash buyer as best you can, even though you may use private money, you want to present yourself in the most favorable light and the strongest light. So that'll help you in providing a good, strong letter or offer, excuse me. So again, proof of funds, articles of incorporation. If you have a corporation, at least know who the name is. You can email this information to your realtor or even the seller you're dealing with directly. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for the opportunity to purchase your property at 123 Elm Street. Below are the highlights of my offer and terms. I'm offering $350,000, earnest money deposit $5,000, buyer and seller each to pay their own closing cost 50-50, or each to pay their own closing costs. Close of escrow. So when you're talking to the realtor, you're talking to the seller, you're asking questions about, you're trying to discover what's important to them. Is it timeline? Is it giving them time to live in the property a little bit beyond you closing? It's not always price. There are other factors that also are important to the seller and the realtor, or the seller for the most part. And if you can key on those, asking good questions that are important to them. If sometimes they might like you and just want you to have the property because you've offered them a fair price, but they like you. So writing a good, strong offer is a great starting point to increasing the chances that you're going to get your offer accepted. So if you want to learn more, I can give you some more details. Give me a call, 714-747-1912. There are ways of negotiating so you can get the price that you want. Sometimes it's finding out what the seller wants or the realtor and that price, and proceeding with the idea that you'd like to buy it at that price, and then get into it. You don't want to get into a transaction thinking you want to renegotiate. That's really not the best approach. I don't do that, but you want to try to do that before you open escrow. But what it might look like is a realtor or a seller gives you this opportunity. Hey, Bob the flipper, Jay the flipper, I have this property at $625, and you say, that I'd like to see it. So you want to get out there as soon as you can. As a flipper or an investor, you want to move quickly. If you can get out the same day or the next day, time is always of the essence with these investment opportunities. So the quicker you can get out there and look at the property, meet the realtor, meet the seller, you're increasing your chances of getting that property. So because you want to get out there and look at it, kind of assess the condition of it to determine how much it might cost to rehab the property. And then I don't spend tons of time taking my contractors over. I just, have a lot of experience, and you'll get to that point, or you may have a lot of experience, and assess what the repairs are, in a general sense. Okay, I think it's going to cost about $40,000, $50,000, and you have that. Now you've seen it, and you have a pretty good idea of what it's in the ballpark, what it's going to cost to rehab it. And then you want to run your spreadsheet. I have an Excel spreadsheet I use all the time, and fill that in. Put in your projected resale price. You look up comps on the computer, have your realtor help you with that, or if you're a realtor or have access to the MLS, look at all your comps. Run your spreadsheet. And I write my offer based on this spreadsheet and going, okay, I think this is going to work. And if they accept my offer, then I really want to roll up my sleeves and know definitively that I want to buy the property and proceed. And if not, I want to let them know right away. I want to let the seller and the seller and the realtor know that, hey, you know what, this isn't going to work. And sometimes they'll say to you, well, what price will work? Some people negotiate. Other people do this. It's not my tactic. You can utilize it or not. Put the property in escrow, do a home inspection, go through it, and then renegotiate. I don't do that. Other people use that technique. That's up to you to decide if you're going to use that technique. I normally don't, because I get a lot of deals for realtors, and I don't like to make them look bad or put them in a bad situation with their sellers. So I'm a little more sensitive to that. But there are people that negotiate like that. Will just put a property in escrow and tie it up, making the realtor and the seller think they're going to buy it at that price. But the buyer investor knows they're not buying it at that price, and they're going to renegotiate. I don't do that, but those are techniques of people I see in the marketplace. I buy a lot of deals that fall out of escrow when those same flippers or investors tie up a property thinking they're going to renegotiate, and they don't get the property at the price they want. And I buy a lot of deals that fall out of escrow. So if you see deals that are pending escrow, there's a chance that it was going to fall out of escrow. It happens all the time. So writing a solid offer, getting up to bat as often as you can, getting the opportunity to look at as many properties as you can and write as many offers. It's a numbers game. Flipping property is a numbers game. It's a numbers game on how you analyze the deal, and it's a numbers game on how many times you get up to bat to write an offer and to buy a property. So you want to increase those odds and see more properties, writing more offers, talking to more realtors, talking to more homeowners, and getting up to bat. You'll find that deal. If you're consistent and you're professional and you learn how to analyze these deals, and you work with good private money lenders like myself, and you learn how to analyze these deals, and you get a reliable contractor or handyman that can do the work, you can succeed at flipping real estate in Southern California. So I hope this information has helped you. If you want to call me, I'm happy to dig in deeper and answer specific questions about financing or the purchase agreement and taking you through that, or writing a pre-qualification letter, getting you ready to give the information that you're going to need to give to the realtor or the property owner to get your offer accepted so you can flip a house. Increase the chances of you getting your offer accepted and you getting closer to buying a flip. Give me a call, Jay Green, 714-747-1912. I hope you found this information helpful and valuable. If you like this video, please hit the like button, and please subscribe to my channel so I can continue to create more great content. And thanks for watching my video.